At the end of the day, you know your body better than anyone, better than your own doctor, or you should. And if you don't, you need to figure out how to get back to that, you know? So I think I'm a very, I run a lot on intuition, and I think that served me well. And that's maybe where I was able to connect some of these dots that look healing. And a lot of this is intuitive.
Well, I am super excited to have you on the show. For everybody out there, this is Danielle McDonald.
Hello.
I am what to put into like a sports analogy. I love the person on the field who's like hustling, the person who's diving for the ball, and the person who's like scrambling, and they're a tenacious defender. And I know you played basketball, so you kind of get that. And that's how you show up in my life. I see you as a person who's hustling. You're a person who's out there diving for the ball. And you and I met a couple years ago when you were just getting Radiant Mama Juice Bar going, and we were looking for ways to collaborate and work together. And I've just been so grateful to have you in my life, to just watch you and how you're blowing up, and your business has grown. But and that's really why I'm having you on the show, because you inspire me, and I've loved working with you the times that we have worked together. And I know that our audience will be inspired by you also. So thank you for being on the show.
Well, thanks, Athan. That's very kind of you to say. So, honestly, it's funny you use that analogy, diving for the ball, because my mom, it used to freak her out. She'd actually beg me. She'd be like, stop diving on the floor for the ball, So I appreciate that. I definitely have always been a hard worker, and you can get a lot done through hard work, right? And you and Anne Marie are as well, and you guys inspire me. And when we met, I'd never done the kind of fitness that, you guys coach and teach, and it's really a lifestyle. And so I've just been so grateful to learn y'all's ways. I've changed just from being a part of your gym community for the better. A lot of self-development, not only physically getting stronger, but I think confidence and things like that, which have carried over into my work in business and even in my family life. And so, I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
I love that. Biggest compliment you could really pay me is that in some way I've done something for your life to help you to grow or move the needle forward. So I'd love to just kind of start with, you talked about like growth in business, and you talked about your, a little bit about your family. Tell our audience, like what, I know you own Radiant Mama Juice Bar. Tell us a little bit about that, maybe how it got started, what you guys do, all that stuff.
Well, it's kind of a long story. The business itself is, I would say, a direct representation of myself and my journey. I think a lot of people kind of get that to some degree, that it's definitely a personal thing that we've tried to just share and turn into community, basically. But it started, it really goes back to my grandmother. I had a very close relationship with her. She was like kind of the radiant mama in my life, always there for me during some really hard family times that I went through, and taught me all about faith, because I feel like my faith has definitely carried me through this life and continues to. But she, unfortunately, the way that she passed was a way that I would have never wanted or hoped for her. And I think we all kind of have that story in our lives, that person whose health just, and then also the medical industry. I'm not trying to get too deep on that, but it was bad and it was sad, and I was already into health and wellness, and I just was like, I felt like I didn't get a chance to, maybe I did help her in some ways, but it was almost felt like too late. And I just know there's so many people out there that it's not too late for. And so I just kind of made that decision that I have the knowledge, the passion for this. And so I'm going to be sure that I can help as many people as possible. So that's kind of where the idea of like Radiant Mama came from. But it actually started in my mom's kitchen. So my oldest daughter, Izzy, who is 6 now, had just started to go into Mother's Day out. And of course she started catching little colds and things like that. And being into all the herbs and things that I already was like, there's got to be something, that she can take every day to build her immunity. And I stumbled upon elderberry. That was about 3 years ago, and started making it in my mom's kitchen. We were living with her at the time. So just had our second baby. And so I was really in mom mode, right? Carrying Lily around on my hip, making this elderberry brew, and it worked for us. And so I just kind of put feelers out. We were brand new to Bastrop. I needed friends. I'm a pretty social person. So, and I'm just a salesperson at heart too. So I was like, let me try to sell this elderberry because I know it works, And so a lot of the local moms started buying it and taking it, and it started helping their lives. And it just kind of organically grew from there. We decided to go set up at the Bastrop Farmers Market just right over here. And we were there for about a year and a half, just like you said, hustling, plugging away, trying to spread this message that there is a different way for preventative medicine, which we believe are plants and herbs and things that are more natural and non-invasive to the body. And I think because I personally feel like that message is truth, that it was slowly received well by this community. But it's taken all of the 3 to 4 years, and I don't know how long y'all have been in Bastrop, but it's been great to see Bastrop evolve just in the last 3 to 4 years with health and wellness, So anyways, like I said, long story. But then from there, we opened up the juice bar. It was kind of a selfish thing. I wanted juice. Bobby, my husband, and I, back in 2012, when that movie Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead came out, I don't know if you remember that, we were like sold. We were all in back in 2012. And so we started juicing every day. And we immediately just saw a positive impact on our health. But then we kind of fell away from it. And it kind of came to this point where we're like, we're living in this great town. We're already doing all these things with the herbs and all of that. So why don't we just, try to start a juice and smoothie bar? And so we started in a 100 square foot cash wrap. That's when I first met you. I mean, yeah. A tiny space. Like, I look back and I am just like in awe of like each step we've made. They're not necessarily big steps, but they're definitely like growth steps, And so then we moved to like a 400 square foot space, had a little bit more room, and then finally took the leap of faith and moved here downtown and have our own little shop. And it's slowly growing, but most importantly, like if we help one person in this life make better decisions and feel better day to day, like that's a win. So
yeah, and that's really what I love about like you, and I think it's why like who you are really resonates with me, because it's so clear to me that like you in the beginning of kind of telling your story about Radiant Mama, it's like it was born of who I am. And I think the businesses that I love and that I get the most excited about, it seems clear to me that it's like, the person is doing something that they would probably do for free anyway. It's just like they love it. They're so into it, and they're just finding a way to make a living doing what they love doing. And I see that in you. I think that's why you're doing so well and that you are growing, is because other people see that. And I think, and it's hard. And I love how you mentioned like, starting in, 100 square feet and then going to 400 square feet, because that's how my business started. I back in 2011, I started as a by donation boot camp, and people could come. I had this army boot sitting out there. For real? Yeah. Out in this park. That, I mean, honestly, the city of Austin can't really come get me now, but I didn't have a permit to even be there. And I just started training people out there. And I said, if you have a couple dollars in your pocket, drop it in there. And pretty soon, it blew up, and, we grew and grew and grew. But those humble beginnings, it's so like, I try to not lose touch with that, because sometimes I think that's when you forget where you came from. And so starting in your grandma's kitchen, your mom's kitchen, and all that stuff is so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And you said you were already into health and wellness. So you were, I know that through our conversations in the past, you were a wellness coach, and are you still doing any of that, or?
Yeah. So essentially, yes, it just looks a little bit different these days. But I went to college and have a degree in wellness science. So I had started out in psychology, and then I don't know, the school was offering, a new program. It was this wellness science program. They kind of came at it like, you can just someday maybe run your own wellness business. So I was like, sure. So ended up doing it, completing that program. And of course, playing basketball all this time, that always kept me in shape. But, during my college years, I would say that I just crammed tons of reading and books, self-development. I started studying Eastern Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. I mean, those are the kind of nerdy books that I read.
I love that.
But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it all started. Was in college, I had a personal health crisis. There was this period of time going through a lot of emotional things with my dad that obviously was manifesting physically. And so that's when I tied in that, okay, it's more than just like what you eat and, working out every day. It really is this mind, body, spirit journey that we're on. And you have to definitely be working and be aware all the time of how are those lining up? How are they aligning in harmony with one another? So this health crisis I went through, I was very underweight. I was one of those people that I watched everything I ate, but to a fault. Like there's actually, it's technically a disorder now. I forget the name of it. But that was me. And so I think it was just based emotionally out of like a lot of guilt and shame, but when I started seeing it for what it was and was able to deal with it. And a lot of the ways I dealt with that was reading books. I'm a Christian. I went to church spiritually, trying to grow, getting myself around people who I knew could help pull me out of that. So yeah, I feel like maybe I'm rambling a little, but nonetheless, I was in a really dark place. I had that moment in life. I was in a very dark place. And I think my life could have gone like one of two ways, And so I'm very grateful to God that he put strong people in my life to help redirect me. And all the while, I always had this passion for health and wellness, but I had to heal. And then once I healed and saw, now I want to be there for other people who are trying to do the same thing. So
yeah, and I'm a huge believer. I like you. Some of who I am now and what people might see as some of my successes or my better qualities now were really born out of a dark place, out of a failure, out of falling flat on my face. I was a social worker, and really I tell people all the time, like, yes, I wanted to help other people, but I think secretly deep down inside of myself, I was trying to fix myself. I was going to school to figure out what was going on with me and how could I resolve whatever was going on with me. And of course, it felt good to be able to help other people while I was figuring that out. But I think that's really a truth. And probably a lot of people go into those helping professions, trying to do something like that. So where does your entrepreneurial spirit come from? So I get, and I actually want to circle back around too. Like, how did your inclination towards herbs and whole foods and all that stuff? I kind of want to hear where that was born, but I'm super interested in your entrepreneurial space. You said like, I'm a salesperson at heart. You said something like that a minute ago. And like, where does that come from? And what's that all about?
I think that spirit is embodied from like my grandfather. He ran a successful tool business. We're from Oklahoma. We're Okies. So, and
we won't hold that against you.
Thanks. So I would say, he passed when I was 13, but I still remember just all the little nuggets that he fed into me. And I'd say so in a way, like it runs in the family, I guess you should say.
What were some of the nuggets? Like, what would you say that you watched him do, or did he say something? Because my family's we're farmers, but my family always had like side businesses. And so I was like that 8-year-old kid pushing a lawnmower around the neighborhood. So I'm curious, like, what did you see or what did you hear that was like kind of like the golden nugget for you?
I think it was just who he was and how he treated us. He taught me that I can do things myself. I just remember he was the one who, when I was really young, out on the lawnmower, teaching me how to do real hands-on things like that. And I think that's also where, and my dad was like this too. I'm also just a physically hard worker. I'm not afraid to get out there and shovel the gravel, because literally that's what I had to do when I was young. I mean, being in Oklahoma is pretty country, and so a lot of things like that. But my grandpa always had these little sayings like, don't eat no dirt, never take a wooden nickel from somebody. He just was all about like being wise, and he even, I've, thank God, really, but I've never been in a car wreck to this day. And I always just think of when my grandpa, when I was first driving, he just said, you're not driving just for yourself, but you always have to be driving for the person in front of you and behind you. And I think so, just bringing this self-awareness to life, like always, like, I don't know if that, what that translates to, but it meant something for me,
Totally.
So like, yeah.
Yeah. And I, there's just this feeling that I get that, but who I am, and it sounds like you feel maybe like similar to this, is just like who I am is really the result of the people who I've spent time with in my life. And I've just been lucky. I'm an average guy who just been lucky enough to be around some amazing people. And I've just stood on the shoulders of giants. And it sounds like you've had some really amazing people in your life. You've talked about your grandma, and you've talked about your grandpa, and your other people. So I love that. So it's just kind of born in you, that entrepreneurial spirit. And then what about the the food, the wellness, where did that come from? Is that something you picked up on your own, or did that come from family?
Yeah, I think a lot of that, again, came from whenever I had my personal health crisis. So I learned that those things work. I think part of it is believing in it. There is this, I've been presented with like, maybe it's a placebo effect, but personally, my theory is I believe we were all created. I think we were created from the same things plants were. And I think that, on a biological level, like our bodies just know what to do with the plants, like at a cellular level. Yeah. And it's a real simple concept, but I think that our culture and society has gotten away from that truth.
And you can tell, I mean, obesity and all these chronic health, conditions that we didn't have before. So what got you to kind of take that leap of faith of like trying these remedies that worked for you? Yeah,
reading books, trying things, going out, buying herbs. One of the things that I did, if I'm being just real open and honest here, Bobby and I were trying to conceive, and there was just like something wasn't gelling. And so I bought a book and was like, let me take these herbs to help with hormones and stuff. And even as deep as like watching a woman cycle in the moon. I followed it, and I started learning too. It's a very intuitive, health is a very intuitive thing. So when I do health coaching, I kind of strayed away from that. This is why I want to get back into health coaching, is to teach people, like, at the end of the day, your body better than anyone, better than your own doctor, or you should. And if you don't, you need to figure out how to get back to that, So I think I run a lot on intuition, and I think that served me well. And that's maybe where I was able to connect some of these dots that look healing. And a lot of this is intuitive. And even with the plants, like as you start using them, you kind of just intuitively know and learn like how they work, how your body works, and like what you need and when you need it. Of course, I've dedicated a lot more time than the average person because I love this, and now it's like my career. But that's why we're so busy. People are so busy, there's just not time anymore, I feel like, for people to really like think about these things or give them the shot that they deserve, so.
Yeah. And I love how you talked about the intuitive part of it, because I'm constantly trying to, and sometimes people get frustrated when I say this, but I like to believe that we already have all of the answers and the wisdom that we need within us, and if we just take the time to be with ourselves and to be quiet and really just get in touch with ourselves, a lot of our answers will just come to us. And I do believe there's a spiritual component to that. Obviously, when you connect to God and when you connect to something bigger than yourself, there's a flow of information and wisdom that comes from there. But I also just believe that ancestrally, your DNA that's inside of you right now isn't just what color your eyes are and what color your hair is and how tall you are, but there's the lessons that have been learned from generation that all live inside of us. And I think it's like walking down the halls of a ancestral library.
It's funny you say that, because going back to where I come from, supposedly my great grandmother, who was Mexican, so she lived in Mexico, and they used a lot of herbs. And so my grandma was just saying, if I had this, she'd pull out this herb and use that. And and so a lot of my aunts are like, so you remind us kind of her for your love for using natural things. So
isn't that crazy? Like how, and you didn't know her?
No.
Yeah, personally, but it has now manifested in your life.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and just kind of going back to that and kind of talking about like what we should be, things that we maybe should be doing more in our lives. Like, are there practices in your life, or do you have habits in your life that really, keep you going or keep you grounded, or you're again a go-getter and a successful person. You're running a business. What are the must-dos in your maybe daily or weekly life that kind of keep you well?
Definitely drinking a lot of quality mineral water. So most people, I don't think, realize that the quality of water that they're drinking is not sufficient to sustain like a really super strong, healthy immune system. Personally, we drink crazy water. It's from Mineral Wells, Texas. Most disease begins in the gut. And so it's really important that you're well hydrated on a cellular level. I've literally seen it explained to me that it's called dead water if there's no minerals, and like it doesn't even go into the cell. So it's just kind of like going through you, but not into you. So that's one thing is I always try to be sure to drink plenty of mineral water every week. Another one is I personally pray and spend a lot of time with God, a lot, because this world is kind of crazy. And, as leaders, it's not easy. There's always a lot coming at us and a lot that we have to keep stress levels down, composure for, to be, a good example for other people. So that's kind of where that plays in. So whether it's like meditation or prayer or whatever it is, that you do, definitely taking a look at yourself and looking in the mirror all the time and thinking like, how can I do better? How can I be better? Because I've learned at the end of the day, we can't control anyone but ourselves.
And that's hard to, that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, but you can only control your reactions or your responses to other people. And
I can be a hot-headed kind of person. That's definitely been something I've had to learn, is to not knee-jerk react.
Angry?
I don't know. I've been described as feisty. I can get short with people. You don't work with me.
I've never experienced you that way. Yeah.
Well, you don't work with me.
Right, yeah.
But just ask Bobby.
The whole marital, they get to see all of it.
Yeah, I've been described by my employees that I can be sometimes a little feisty and short. And I've had to really work on the way, be sure that my tone of voice and everything matches how I really feel. Because when I'm in work mode and business mode, I can get very serious, and it's just like I want things done. And like I see how they need to get done, but in a lot of ways that's impractical, and I'm setting expectations. Maybe I have high expectations, but that's not being very gracious to other people on a lot of levels. And so I've kind of had to learn that. But at the same time, I have to say my employees have come to me and they're like, thank you, because you inspire me to step up, to take on more responsibility, things like that. So that makes me feel good too, that, goes both ways. So,
yeah, I have one of my values, as you probably know, because I've basically pushed my values on the gym. The gyms have adopted but one of them is kind. Yeah, you have the shirts to have my values on them, and kindness over everything is one of my values. And I think people often don't understand that it doesn't mean you're always being sweet to everybody, and it doesn't mean that you're never upset or anything, because I think one of the most kind things you can do for anybody is be hard on them, to hold them to a standard, to bring the best out of them that because I feel like I can see people's potential, and it bugs me when someone's not at least trying to live up to their potential.
I think one thing I had to learn was I'm like you. I think maybe that's why we're in the positions we're in. Like I can easily see another person's potential and what they're capable of. And I've learned, though, you can't love people for their potential. You have to love them and meet them right where they're at. And I think that's why I enjoy health coaching. I don't necessarily enjoy big group settings, but I enjoy sitting one-on-one with someone and being able to help them work through whatever it is that's hindering their growth in life. And a lot of time I've found, and this kind of touches back on some other things we've discussed, is just asking them questions, because I know that they already know the answers to their problems, but they just need to be provoked and, just questioned and make them think, and then eventually just hope that they'll figure it out, but that's kind of what health coaching is about.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you said about that you kind of have to, my interpretation of what you says is love them as they are right now. well, I spent half of my life trying to be worthy of love or to be worthy of people's respect or just to be wanted, and it took me a long time to realize that I'm already worthy of all of that as I am now, and I don't need to prove myself to anybody. And I really try to treat other people like that, is just say, you're great as you are right now, love you to death. And I see
that's not easy to do, right? I mean,
it's not always because
it's the
not
right
always
thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and because not everyone is doing things that are easy to love,
Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, people can be frustrating and hateful and mean.
I guess I can too, right? I mean, really. But yeah, no, it's not easy. But I've learned that recently. So.
Yeah, and I try to just not attach to that. One of my things that's a common goal of mine is just not get attached to any particular result or outcome. I set an intention, I'll set a goal, and I'll try to work towards it, but I don't get attached to how it actually ends up, and that's especially with people. I'm a strength coach. I'm a gym owner. I'm always trying to get people to, at least in a physical capacity, to come closer to their physical potential. And sometimes when I'm putting in quite a bit of effort to help people with that, it can be frustrating when people maybe aren't getting the result, even if they're trying. I mean, they're trying hard, and it's like, man, why isn't it working? Or what's, and so
I think that's where too, as leaders, we have to know how to set boundaries with people, because like, as I'm coaching someone, if I see they're not progressing and I see that it's literally just a lack of focus and effort, then I have to know how to then navigate that relationship to still get the same results. But a lot of times that involves like, maybe, this is like creating some boundaries in that relationship, and, whether it's like time or, whatever. It's been real interesting with health. Maybe you found the same thing. I found that we get the most results out of people when they have to spend money on their health.
Yes, big time.
I don't know what it is. I used to give free health coaching, and like the effort was, just not there, but you charge them, and it's like there's more of an effort. I think it goes back to just human nature, right? Like
they've got skin in the game. Part of it's they've got skin in the game. I don't know. We probably don't have enough time in this podcast to talk about my frustration with money in general. But the fact of the matter is that it has value to some people, and then when they're adding a value to a particular service or something, then they're going to try harder. For sure. But
it shouldn't be like that, right? Like, this is our health we're talking about. We get one life, and it's like you said, we're all just want to be accepted. We all just want to be loved. And so I think our message is just like, you are accepted, you are loved. Just go out there and do it. And we're here, to help. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is why I love that there's people like you out there in this world who are every day on a daily basis working with people and interacting with people and helping them to be healthier, and not just healthier physically, because certainly the products you offer help physically, but there's also a spiritual and an emotional component to that, which is, as we know, the bigger, when you can figure out the mental part, the physical and everything else kind of
all aligns. Yeah.
And
we teach that at our employees at the juice bar, is like, when people walk in here, they're experiencing more than just a juice and a smoothie. It's our energy. It's the way we talk to them. It's the way we answer their questions. So really our goal as a team at the juice bar is to provide like the best customer service in town, because we want them to come back because of the way we made them feel, not necessarily because of the product itself, although that's great.
Yeah, our information packet in our website says we're the most dedicated and caring gym in Bastrop.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and that's important to me. More than what we know about strength and conditioning or anything like that. I want people to know that we're a safe place, that we're caring, that we're supportive, and that they've become our family. And it sounds like, and I love that you're teaching your employees that as well, because that's what really matters. That's what people really need. Well, we could probably talk all day, but I would love, where can people find you? Where can people learn about your businesses and all that stuff?
We're on all of the social media outlets, well, at least Facebook and Instagram. My business is Radiant Mama Juice and Smoothie Bar. We're located here in downtown Bastrop, just 702 Main, just past Well Fargo's if you're in Bastrop. And we have a full website, radiantmamajuicebar.com. You can shop from there. We don't have any resources yet, but I guess coming soon. But nonetheless, just come to the store.
Yeah, it's always a product. It's always a process, and we're in development. Is there anything you wish I had asked you that I didn't ask you? I always feel like sometimes people have things they come into it wanting to talk about.
I guess I get asked a lot about we moved to Bastrop because of the river and the outdoors. And a lot of people that live here have never been on the river. They've never experienced like what makes, I think, Bastrop so amazing, which is the natural component to it.
Absolutely.
And so people ask like, well, why do you like kayaking so much? Why do you like being on the river? So I don't know. It's a fun question. For me, it's just getting out there. And, we are as leaders around people all the time. It's kind of just an extra way for me to unplug and to recenter and recharge spiritually. I see water in the river kind of as this cleansing, like the river teaches us a lot of lessons, right? Like just going with the flow.
Yes.
And it's just such a beautiful thing when I get out there. It's just, I'm in my element. And so I just encourage everybody to find that thing outside and in nature that you love that really helps you to find yourself again every time you go back, so.
Yes, there's something so powerful about being out there in nature, and water in particular. I agree, and it's we've all probably seen that Bruce Lee quote or saying. Have you seen the one where it's like "Be like water"? Yeah, it can be turn it. You can put it in a cup and it becomes the cup. It can flow and and there's just something really amazing about observing water. So I love that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
And actually, I have one last question before we wrap it up. You mentioned mineral water. Yeah. What minerals are supposed to be in water that, because it's funny that you mentioned it, because I've recently started taking a supplement that I put in my water because I was having the same problem. I drink a gallon of water a day. I have for years, but felt like I was just like kind of like peeing it all out, and I didn't feel very hydrated. I was still getting cramps and things like that. But then I started taking a supplement that has some minerals and stuff in it. So I'm just really curious. Am I taking what's in the water?
Most people know like sodium, potassium, things like that. That helps with the cellular water regulation in the body and everything. But there's other things like magnesium, yada, yada. I honestly am not an expert on which exactly minerals, but I do know when you're shopping water, you need to look at the total dissolved solids, the TDSs in the product. We're actually, I think, one of the only countries that doesn't really offer mineral water, which go figure. I feel like the U.S. is so backwards on a lot of things. Like France is kind of a country to look at, and they do water well. I don't take a supplement. I just drink crazy water, and it's just a local well here in Texas. You can literally drive out, see the well, see where they're sourcing all of the water. It's from the earth. And I just know when I drink that stuff, like, all is right.
That's awesome. Well, it's crazy because I have this Whoop that tells me like what my recovery and stuff is like. And it's insane that like on days that I forget to take that supplement, and it has sodium, magnesium, potassium, some other stuff in it, right? Yeah. But on the days I take it, like my recovery is so much better. And on the days I don't take it, I'm like in the tank, I'm like, it can't be that. It can't be just that.
It is. So that's why it was my number one tip. I don't even know if I gave any more tips.
But well, it's a great tip, and I think the best tips are the simple ones, easy to adopt. Just change what water you drink.
Yeah, and if it tastes weird to you at first, that's okay, and that's actually a sign that you need it, because I've gotten feedback on that. And like, the water should taste like something. That's a good thing. So.
From the earth. Yeah.
You're tasting the dirt.
Well, I'm so glad. I feel like we need a part 2 and a part 3 because I feel like we could just go on and on. But I really appreciate you taking the time. I learned things about you today and about your business that I love, and I know that people out there are going to love. So just thank you for showing how you're showing up in the world and who you are, and for being on the show.
Thank you, Athan. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Have a good rest of your day.